If you will accept what I have told you this night, life will be much easier for you. Knowing this truth, you can't pass the buck anymore. But knowing you are the Lord, you can do anything because you are all imagination, and imagining creates reality. You can imagine anything and sustain it with faith. As you walk in the faith that which you have imagined is so, it will become so. This I know from experience. Back in 1943, when I came out of the army, I was looking for an apartment. My wife and I had determined how much we were going to pay for it, but when we found the apartment, the rent was more than we had planned to pay. Realizing this, my wife said, "Well, that's not demonstrating this principle, is it?" I said nothing. I simply paid the months of September and October, but when I went to pay the November rent, the manager said, "I have an apology to make to you. An authority of the city came in and looked over my books. He discovered that the apartment you have was formerly rented for less." Then he quoted the new rent figure to me, which was to the dollar the amount I had originally chosen to pay. It took me 3 months of being faithful to what I had imagined I was paying, even though during that time I was paying more. But since the reduced rent was retroactive to the day I moved in, I got it all back at the beginning of the 3rd month. I committed myself in my imagination to what I was going to pay. I went looking, and because I was going to pay more, in his eyes, he gave me all kinds of concessions he would not have done had I paid him what the former tenant did. First of all, he allowed us to pick out the wallpaper, the colors and rooms we wanted painted. He even built a bookshelf for me which covered an entire wall for all my books. He did everything I wanted, but if I had gone in there and gotten the rent for the amount I said I would pay, he would not have built the bookcase for me, given me the wallpaper, or painted the entire apartment to my specifications. Only then was the rent reduced to the amount I had imagined it to be, and we remained there almost 14 years. I tell you, imagination will not fail you if you are faithful. What could I say when I was confronted with the negation of my assumption? Nothing. I simply would not give up, and when the time was right, my assumption became a fact. I urge you to set your goal high. Assume the feeling it has been reached and sleep in that feeling. Persist, and I promise you that not one thing in this world can rob you of that which you have assumed. But the most important thing is to know that which is housed within you is God's plan of redemption, and He only redeems Himself. God came down into the world and housed Himself in you. Now, He is going to discover who He is. For it is in you as a person that the nature of God is revealed. Now let us go into the silence.